Yo, what's good, everyone? It's your boy Jeff Patello here with another fight recap. Today we're going to be breaking down Bellator 239, Bellator 240, and of course the much heavily anticipated rematch between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. First off, we're going to get right into the big fight of the weekend, and yes, that's correct, folks. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Going into this, I was really expecting Deontay Wilder to end up KOing Fury, but the Gypsy King shocked the world. You know, I know many people were probably rooting for Fury, but I myself was not one of those, and I was proven wrong. You know, on the initial overview of this fight, it looked like there was a couple factors of this fight. One, Tyson was huge. He was a really big man in that fight. I think he was something tipping the scales around like 274 pounds versus Deontay Wilder's 230. Both men definitely packed weight on for this fight, but it proved to be a little too much weight for Deontay Wilder. As they were always getting into these clinch battles, Fury was able to land shots to the body. It took Wilder a little bit to catch on to this game here, and eventually he started throwing shots to Wilder in the body, or sorry, Fury to the body when they started to clinch. But the ref was not having any of this. He actually even deducted a point from Fury in the 5th round because of this. You know, the other big thing and the big factor here was that my boy Wilder got his eardrum blown out. He took a nasty shot to the ear, and that really put him on wobbly legs. In fact, he was on wobbly legs from the 3rd round to the 7th round. You know, Wilder was trying to give it his all, but he was on some shaky legs. You know, he was unable to really uncock that right hand. You know, in this fight, he only won, I believe, just the 2nd round is how I had it. You know, most will probably say he didn't even win a single round that whole fight, which I could see. He just looked really gassed right from the get-go, you know, and I really contribute that to Tyson Fury just really coming at him, backing him up, you know, and Fury fought a great game plan, right? He came out and did what he said he was going to do, and you know, he handed Deontay Wilder his first L, and with that win, this now makes the heavyweight division all that much more spicier. We've got an actual chance, hopefully maybe later this summer, if not later on in the year, but hopefully we might get a chance to see a heavyweight unification. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for this one, folks. I really would like to see it. It's been about 20 years since we've had a last unified, undisputed heavyweight champion. The last one to do so, can you guess? Don't look it up. Lennox Lewis, folks. It's been it's a bit of a tragedy that you know what I mean, we have not had a heavyweight unification like this. But if we look back in the history, we could see that with both Klitschko brothers owning pieces of the gold, it was never really going to happen. So it's very exciting time to actually see this, and this is even more exciting, I guess, for the UK folks, because this is going to be an all battle of Britain, pretty much. We've got Anthony Joshua, who's got 4 belts, and he is now going to be chasing Fury for his WBC belt. The WBC belt is probably the one belt that has got the most prestige, followed by the WBA and the IBO or IBF. I always get the IBOs and the IBFs mixed up. With that, so to being said, Tyson Fury still has his lineal champion. He got the Ringside Magazine belt now. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this to this much anticipated bout between Joshua and Fury. In fact, even DAZN had just kind of put something out there, you know, kind of like, hey, let's get this done sooner rather than later, you know, and hopefully we will see it done sooner rather than later. But enough about boxing. We're gonna jump into Bellator 239 next. This card was I originally put this a 4 out of 5, and I'm going to upgrade this to 4.5 out of 5. It was a short card. There was only 4 fights on the main event, but let me tell you, there was a shocker in this one, and we're gonna start off with that. Even though it wasn't the first fight of the night, it was the second fight of the night, and I thought Fortune was going to run the gambit on Johnson, but lo and behold, Johnson coming in looking good, you know, trimmed down. I had originally said that he does not have the most fighter-friendly body, but he looked really good, trimmed down. He looked like he was in good, phenomenal shape, and he was able to hit Fortune with a right hammer fist from God. Well, not hammer fist, but a right cross, and Fortune was out sleeping on his feet. It was a nasty shot. Really did not expect it, but I think maybe Fortune wasn't expecting it either, you know, and now Fortune's got to deal with that L, you know. It's gonna fucking put kind of a put the brakes on his momentum that he's been having here, fortunately. But these things happen, you know. He'll bounce back. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division. He's possibly, well, he was getting touted as the future of the heavyweight division, so hopefully this KO loss will not diminish him. You know, sometimes these terrible KO losses have a bad reaction to people who have never been KO'd before, right? So we never know exactly how Fortune's going to bounce back, but I am expecting him to be all right in his next fight. As for Johnson, I don't know who he's going to fight next, but you know, it was a really good performance by him, you know, and hopefully he can stick to his winning ways. You know, he definitely needed that win. He was on I believe a 2-fight losing streak, so it's good to get that W. I believe that was also his first W in the Bellator ring. Maybe Johnson's next opponent is going to be one of these two fighters. Well, maybe he's going to be the winner of this next fight. We're going to talk about Aliva versus Moldavsky. This kind of went the route that I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to go the distance with Moldavsky. Sorry, I'm bad with these names. But as I get familiar with these guys, I'm hopefully going to stop butchering them. But Moldavsky was the lighter fighter in these two in this bout. He was like around like 230 pounds, coming in against Hyvee, who was 261. You know, just a couple pounds underneath the heavyweight limit. And I have to make a note that Jaime was looking absolutely phenomenal in this match. He was definitely outclassed by the Russian, but you know, his ground defense looked good. He looked a lot trimmer in this fight. It should also be known that he also works like a full-time job, right? So not like he is completely dedicated to well, not that he's not completely dedicated, but he just doesn't have the amount of time that he would like to dedicate to this. I would really love to see him get a chance to just focus on fighting 100%, because he showed some great skills. He's got some decent hands, right? And he put on a great performance, even though he lost. As for Moldavsky, this guy has got some great ground and pound. He's got some good hands on him. He's primarily a wrestler. I'm sure we're going to start seeing him develop those hands. But he just put on a solid clinic. You know, he was able to control the whole fight and never really let up. This was a good scrap. It went the distance. And as it says, Malfadowski for the win. And hopefully maybe we're going to see Malfadowski versus Johnson in the near future. All right, now we also had, for our co-main event, we had Gertz versus Drury. This one kind of went the route that I thought it was going to. Drury was able to fight long, fight tall. There was a huge fight reach advantage in this fight for Drury. Drury comes in at like 5'11". Gertz is only 5'7", and Gertz, being the brawler that he is, you know, he put on a great performance, but unfortunately was just never really able to close the gap effectively. He did land some good shots on Miles, but Miles was just able to fight long, fight behind his jab, right? He really put together a good game plan, right? I believe he got a late takedown in the third to really seal the deal for him. And Drury came away with that W, right? As for Gertz, like, I don't know why he wasn't trying to, you know, he could have been using a jab, you know, try and set a few things up, but unfortunately, he was just looking to really turn this fight into a brawl, and it didn't work out in his favor. My fight predictions, I was predicting him to take this fight to the ground, but he did not attempt to do that. He is a brawler and primarily just wants to brawl, which is news to me. As I says, I'm not too familiar with most of these fighters, but as I start watching more, we're going to be getting a lot more familiar. So we're going to see Drury again, and as for Gertz, he's got to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure a few things out. Now for the main event of the night, Friday night that was, we had Ruth versus Amosov. This is just, you know, this guy Ruth, for all the talent and athleticism that he has, he did not look didn't look too sharp in this one, right? He looked really outclassed, and this probably wasn't a fight that Ruth was ready for, to be honest. You know, like, I know that they are trying to push Ruth's stock, but Misamov, wow, this guy has got great hands, great takedown defense, good wrestling. You know, this guy is the complete package. I believe he's another one of those Dagestanian fighters, fights with out of Khabib's camp. You know, he is now undefeated in 23 fights, and, you know, is definitely the future of the sport. You know, this kid has got everything. And I don't know who's going to be the one to slow him down. You know, he's still young. He is on pace to pretty much tie Khabib's record, right? I think Khabib is like, what, 24-0, 25-0, right? So now that makes him 23. He just needs a couple more fights, and he's tied with Khabib, right? Of course, we got to see what Khabib does with Tony, and we'll see if he can keep his record alive as well. So like I says, all in all, this card was actually a lot better than what I had anticipated. I had already rated it a 4 out of 5, but because I had a great time watching most of these fights, and you know, that Johnson versus Fortune fight definitely upped the game. I thought they were feeding Johnson to the wolves in this fight, but it turns out Johnson came to fight, and he laid that hammer down. So like I says, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now we're gonna move on to Bellator 240. This was another good card. I believe I had this one at like a 4.5, or at a 4 out of 5, and I'm gonna upgrade this to a 5 out of 5. This card was actually pretty goddamn hype. We had some pretty big. We had a couple quick finishes in this fight. We had 2 good brawls in this fight. We're going to start off with Benavides versus Malumbo. Malumbo is a SBG fighter fighting out of Conor McGregor's camp. In fact, most of these people were people who have fought out of Conor McGregor's camp. And Malumbo versus Benavides was... it wasn't looking good for Ricky at the start of this fight. Malumbo came out and he was putting on a clinic. Malumbo's got some great striking ability. He has got, he's got a great look to him. You know, both these guys, they match up pretty evenly in the height department. So I knew that this one was going to be a good scrap. This one did not go the distance. This one actually ended in the second round when Ricky was able to catch Malumbo's foot, and he just hit him with a nasty cross right to the face. Twice, pop, pop, dropped him down to the ground, and the ref was able to get in before he was able to do any more damage. Ricky was able to land a couple more hammer fists, but poor Malumbo, he showed a great performance, but just unfortunately got caught. Literally got caught. His leg got caught, and then he just ate shit for it. Wasn't able to get out. Didn't keep his guard up, and he got clocked. But Benavides showing some great resolve. He was losing that fight, most of it, even on the ground he had looked like he was in trouble, but he was able to get out of some bad positions. It was a good fight for Ricky. Also, it's a good move that he has now moved on to American Top Team, right? And it's starting to show, and it is paying off. He looked phenomenal, and I can't wait to see who Ricky faces off next. And in my opinion, I would really love to see, and I hope one day in the future we get to see Benavides versus Malumbo yet again. It was that good of a scrap. All right, so this next one I believe I got wrong here. Encamp versus Long. I was thinking Long was going to take this to the ground, which he tried to do. He had Encamp in danger a couple of times. He had him in a guillotine up against the fence there, and he looked like he was going to choke him out, but Encamp was able to break free of this. They had a quick little brawl, and then Encamp was able to finish Long with a spinning back elbow, and oh my god, it was nasty. That had to be KO of the fight card for 240. That was just an amazing, well-timed, well-placed shot, and Long was not able to do anything with it. So we'll see exactly where Encamp goes from here. But yeah, as for Long, it's back to the drawing board. He'll have to work on a little bit of striking skills. Speaking of striking, our next fight was Becca Rawlings versus Klonodu. I butchered that poor girl's name from Greece. Becca Rawlings showed some great improvement. Becca Rawlings has been on a nasty losing streak. It's nice to see her finally snap that, finally get a W. It's been quite a few years for this woman, and possibly the training and moving with the guys from McGregor's camp, SBG, has been doing her some good, right? She is starting to show that she has got some ground skills. I would really like to see Rawlings spend some time out in Thailand to possibly, learn a little bit of the Muay Thai. She is a former champion in the bare knuckle boxing, right? So you know, she definitely has got some striking prowess. But you know, in this one, this was one of the better fights because Kanelanu was actually taking it to Becca Rawlings, even knowing that like Rawlings was the much more elite striker. It didn't show in this fight. In fact, a couple of times Rawlings looked like she was in trouble, and she had to resort to her ground game. A couple of the judges had Rawlings winning this one outright, you know, 30-27. I think only one judge gave one round to Kalandu. She is a very young fighter, and she'll bounce back. It just seems anytime that her fights go the distance, she just never ends up with the W, unfortunately. But young, talented woman from Greece, you know, I believe she is another one of these fighters that works part-time as well. Hopefully she can kind of give up her day job and focus 100% on her MMA, because she is a scary talent, right? She's only 21. Her record now is 7-4, and you know, we'll see some great things from her in the future. But yeah, this was a hell of a scrap, you know. Really, really great fight. One of the better fights of the weekend, to be honest with you. Oh, and then in this interesting one, Kosovo versus Furtado. This was another war. This one was a lot of back and forth action. Furtado was in trouble in the first. He didn't win the first, but he dominated in the second. He was starting to put some strikes together, to the point that when they came out in the third, he was winning the first like 2 minutes of that fight, and then Crosby was able to take him down to the ground, control him, apply some ground and pound, and squeak out the victory. These guys put on a hell of a bout. Crosby, he definitely needs to trust in his striking a bit more. I know he was a little bit hesitant coming in across Thai fighters such as Furtado. Furtado's got an amazing kickboxing background, right? He is a beast. I think he's won 6 of his last 7 fights. So you know, there was definitely some cautious moments by Crosby, but Crosby is another one of these fighters coming out of the SBG gym, you know, and you know, what else can we say? That Conor McGregor camp out there is top notch in Ireland, and they're starting to produce better and better fighters all the time. You know, you even got Gallagher, right? Just phenomenal camp, phenomenal fight was put on, and Crosby was able to squeak out that victory, like I had mentioned, right? Definitely can't wait to see where these guys will be fighting next. Now that brings us to our main event: Premise versus the bad guy Bungard. This was a very, very quick scrap. I mean, the walkout was a lot faster than the scrap was. Premise and Bungard traded a couple shots in the beginning of the fight, but Premise was able to submit him in relatively easy fashion, right? Had him in a choke and just tapped him right out. What do we see next from Premise? Who knows? Maybe he'll get another shot at Michael Chandler and get a chance to redeem that. We'll see, like, the trilogy is what I'd like to see. You know, other than that, Bungard, who knows what he'll do next. He'll have to definitely work on some of that ground game. He did look like he had some great striking, but back to the drawing board, folks. All right, thank you so much for chilling out and listening to me rant and rave about the amazing weekend that was. Like I said, just an amazing amazing weekend. I am really looking forward to our next event. I believe that is the UFC, but I could be wrong. I'll have to, well, you'll just have to stay tuned and check out what I got coming up next. All right, folks, I'm gonna leave on that note, but before I do, I'm going to leave a link to my Discord channel, and I'm going to make sure to leave a link to my Twitter account as well. As always, peace and much love. Mwah!